Badlands, explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. Today's Thursday, and in the words of Green Day's extra song on Dookie, I was alone. I was all by myself. And that's okay. The show goes on. I can do this solo. How's everybody doing this morning? Hope everybody's having a glorious Thursday. There will be no roofing today for the update on yesterday's debacle. We passed our permitting, so the roof goes on tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be a rough day as well. We'll have all that banging and clanging in the background, but it must be done because Florida kind of sucks in that regard. We've got these things called hurricanes, and if you don't have like the best roof ever, the insurance companies will absolutely crush you over it. So goes life. Let's go ahead and jump into our sponsors for today. And first up, ladies and gentlemen, Maha yourself with supplements that don't suck from Conscious Strength. Founded by Badlands' very own Jordan Sather in 2019, Conscious Strength products are made in America and won't break your bank, unlike other online brands. Their lineup includes collagen for strengthening joints and hair, electrolytes to get rid of those cramps, green powders that taste good and mix easy, Shilajit gummies. It's Shilajit, but I like to say Shilajit. Gummies, methylene blue, zeolite, and more. Flip the finger to Big Pharma. Be your own doctor and get supplements that you can trust from Conscious Strength. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/strength to shop now. One more time, badlandsmedia.tv/strength. And the link will be in the description down below. All right. And then let's also jump in and talk about our very own soft disclosure. Fellas, quick question. Is your beard intentional or is it just happening to your face? If it's dry, crunchy, or doing whatever it wants, it's not rugged. That's neglect. Soft Disclosure Beard Oil fixes that. A few drops softens the hair, conditions the skin underneath, and takes your beard from chaotic to dialed in. No grease, no overpowering fake scent, just clean ingredients that actually work. And now we've added the upgrade. Our new boar bristle beard brush, engraved with the Soft Disclosure logo and ethically imported and finished right here in the United States. Real bristles, real control. It distributes the oil evenly, trains the beard, and makes it look like you meant to grow it that way. And here's the move. When you grab a beard oil, you can add the brush for 25% off. Buy the brush by itself, full price. So do it right. Soft Disclosure beard oil and the new boar bristle brush. Visit softdisclosure.com and level up your beard game. And I got to show you guys, I got my brush. There it is with the nice little Soft Disclosure engraving on the back. But you know what the best thing about this brush? Two things I noticed. I got it this morning, so I've used it just, kind of hastily. The curve is huge. The curve is huge, especially like when you have a longer beard. It allows you to do the corners. Like instead of having a straight one where it just, you kind of can't shape it right. And so this thing, like the one that I had before, first off, this thing's way softer. I love this thing. Way, way nicer. But the curve is a game changer. And it's also got little handles on the sides. You can see those little grooves. So check it out, softdisclosure.com. I'm very impressed by it. I got mine, like I said, this morning. And so, I'm looking forward to using this thing with the oil when I take a shower this evening. You got to put it in when the beard's a little bit damp, and it softens it right up. So let's go ahead and jump into the news for today. And first up, here we go, ladies and gentlemen, from Fox News. This is unfortunate that we have to talk about this story, but 8 skiers found dead, 1 missing after a massive avalanche in Lake Tahoe. 8 skiers who went missing this week after an avalanche have been found dead, and 1 is still missing. Nevada County Sheriff Shannon Moon said that they were on their way back to camp when the avalanche actually hit. It took the searchers and search and rescue crews hours just to find those few survivors that were talking. I love snow. I live in Florida, so I don't see snow hardly at all. Avalanches scare the hell out of me. And I know I don't live any place where avalanches would, worry me at all. But, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was an infantry mortarman, and we always used to joke, like, what's a job you can get if you know mortars when you get out of the Marine Corps? Like, all we did was infantry stuff, but we still learned to shoot mortars during training. And I found out they actually shoot mortars and artillery at mountains to cause avalanches. Like they initiate them so that they don't happen, when skiers are out there. So yeah, that's, again, a little piece of useless information. The avalanche is the deadliest in the United States since 1981, when 11 climbers were killed on Mount Rainier in Washington. 6 survivors were found Tuesday night buried in the snow. Jump down here a little bit, and it says the area near Donner Summit is one of the snowiest places in the Western Hemisphere and was closed to the public for nearly a century until just a few years ago when it was reopened up. That's crazy to me. A century. First and foremost, I saw Donner Summit, and I'm like, whoa. Is this named after the Donner Party? And sure enough, it is. The Donner Party of 1846, 1847 that got lost in the Sierra Nevada mountains and resorted to unspeakable acts in order to sustain themselves out of a group of, I think, like 80 some odd people. About half of them made it out of there alive. And, you got to do what you got to do to survive. I get it, but holy crap, man. So praying for those families that lost loved ones in that tragic, event, and praying for the one survivor. I can't imagine what those crews must have to go through, like trying to find survivors in an avalanche. That's nuts, man. Let's jump into this story here. We got our first arrest in the Epstein files. Prince Andrew has been arrested over suspected misconduct in public office revealed in the Epstein files, from CBS News. King Charles III's younger brother was arrested on his 66th birthday. 66? You think that's by coincidence? 66, huh? He was arrested on his 66th birthday, 2 weeks after an anti-royal organization called for police to investigate documents indicating that Andrew shared confidential government information with the late American sex offender when the royal worked as a British trade envoy. The Thames Valley Police confirmed that, quote, as part of the investigation, we have today arrested a man in his 60s from Norfolk on suspicion of misconduct in public office and carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire, and are carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk. How do they say it? I know, like, Bostonians are kind of weird about that. Like Norfolk. You got to say it like really fast. You don't want to Norfolk. No, you don't want to do that. Norfolk. Kind of like how you guys say Worcestershire or Gloucester. If Andrew is eventually charged with misconduct in public office, the offense carries a maximum possible sentence of life in prison in Britain. And he's also the first senior royal ever to be arrested, according to Roya Nika, the royal editor of Britain's Sunday Times newspaper. So a couple things here. He's not arrested on any allegations of sexual misconduct. It's all sharing classified information, basically. So this is kind of going back to Al Capone. They didn't get Al Capone on all the murders and all the illegal activities. They got him on taxes. And that's kind of like the same thing that we're seeing here with Prince, formerly the prince formerly known as Prince Andrew, the Duke formerly known as Prince Andrew. That's what we're going to call him from now on. King Charles in a statement said, quote, "What now follows is the full, fair, and proper process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. And this, as I've said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course." Going on down here, Virginia Giuffre's siblings put out a statement saying, quote, "At last, today, our broken hearts have been lifted at the news that no one is above the law, not even royalty," Giuffre's siblings said in a statement. "On behalf of our sister, Virginia Roberts Giuffre, we extend our gratitude to the UK's Thames Valley Police for their investigation and the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, a.k.a. the Duke, formerly known as Prince Andrew. He was never a prince. For survivors everywhere, Virginia did this for you." Now, here's the gist of the arrest. It says emails appear to show that the former prince passed on confidential reports on his visits as an official British trade envoy to Singapore, Hong Kong, and Vietnam, including details of investment opportunities. Another email exchange appears to show sharing files he describes as, quote, "a confidential brief on potential investment opportunities in southern Afghanistan." And that's kind of interesting because yesterday we talked about Tom Pritzker resigning from Hyatt Hotels. And one of the things that came out with him was that in 2011, I think it was June 6th of 2011, he was in Afghanistan in a remote valley for some task force on business opportunity, whatever, in Afghanistan. Doesn't make much sense to me as somebody that was in Afghanistan in that time frame. In fact, I think June 6th of 2011, I got there September. My first deployment, I got there September 11th of 2010. So September, October. No, I left. So I was not there. I just left in May. So 1 month before Prince Andrew, before Tom Pritzker got to Afghanistan, I was gone. But then I was back there again later in 2011. We didn't get much downtime. But again, I can testify to how it was a hostile environment. It was not a place, for anybody in that realm to be. And, it's kind of strange. So here's the email. This was from December of 2010, Christmas Eve to be exact. Jay attaches a confidential brief produced by the Provincial Reconstruction Team in Helmand Province for international investment opportunities. These are not exclusive to Helmand Province, but principally focused on that province. Now, that's where I was. I was in Helmand Province. So there's a lot of northern and northeastern provinces that the Army was in that were, pretty hostile as well. But I can't speak, personally of those regions, but I can speak of Helmand, and Helmand was one of the worst in terms of, kinetic conflict in all of Afghanistan, especially in that time frame. 2010, we had the Marja operations going on, Sangin operations going on, or being, developed. And so just kind of strange that they're doing this work over there. It says, "I'm going to offer this elsewhere in my network, including Abu Dhabi, but would be very interested in your comments, views, or ideas as to whom I could also usefully show this to attract some interest. I've sadly already found that the Gates Foundation doesn't do anything in Afghanistan. Signed, A." And Epstein responds, "Send John Sullivan's number, please." Kind of interesting there. So there it is. Our first major arrest in the Epstein files, besides Epstein himself and Ghislaine Maxwell, is Prince, the artist, or the Duke formerly known as Prince Andrew. And it is over misconduct. Nothing about sexual, rape, nothing about any of that stuff. So I'm curious, since I don't have a co-host, I have to take those questionable, uncomfortable pauses to consume some of my coffee. What do you guys think about that? Are you guys okay with technicalities and things like that? I mean, look, he did the crime, right? Sharing the confidential information, classified information is definitely a crime. By the way, congratulations to Britain for taking misconduct in office way more serious than we do here. Right? We've got guys. I mean, John Bolton. We don't know where that case has been. I haven't heard anything about that case in almost a year now. But John Bolton was leaking tons of classified information. Nothing there, right? So I'm wondering, are you guys okay with that? If you get these, deep down that these are people that are compromised. These are people that have done, heinous things to young girls, thinking that they're elites and that they're untouchable. Are you okay with them getting hung up on small crimes like this? Are you okay with Capone going down on tax evasion? I don't know. I'll jump back in the chat here. We do have another story. We have a couple stories on Epstein this morning. I meant to cover this one yesterday. We ran out of time. From the BBC, police assessing Stansted Airport private flights over Epstein ties. Essex police have said it is assessing information about private flights into and out of Stansted Airport following the publication of the Epstein files. Last year, a BBC investigation found 87 flights linked to the convicted sex offender that arrived or departed from that UK airports between the early 90s and 2018. In December, BBC News discovered that 3 British women who were allegedly trafficked appear in Epstein records for flights in and out of the UK, alongside other documents related to the convicted sex offender. Stansted, located around 40 miles away from central London, was one of the airports, quote, where women were transferred from one Epstein plane to another. Stansted Airport said in a statement that, quote, all private aircraft at London Stansted operate through independent fixed-based operators, and these terminals are, quote-unquote, entirely independent, and that, quote, no private jet passengers enter the main airport terminal. Immigration and customs checks for passengers arriving via private jets are carried out, quote, directly by Border Force, and adding that it does not manage or have any visibility of passenger arrangements on privately operated aircraft. Thames Valley Police is assessing allegations that a second woman was sent to the UK by Epstein for a sexual encounter with Andrew. So there is a possibility that we do get some sexual misconduct here if they investigate that and find that, he did actually traffic that specific woman. And I don't know if that's Giuffre or not. But again, it's just, if you're wealthy, if you have the resources and the money, you operate on a different plane than us, right? You operate on a completely different plane, and you're able to fly private planes in. You're able to take contraband with minimal oversight, right? If Epstein had the connections that he has, and it's not lost on me when you look at Charles and Diana when she was still alive. And you look at the Jimmy Savile, right? Jimmy Savile, the pedophile that was only found out after he had passed away. When you look at all of that stuff and put it together, I mean, it's obvious that there's a lot of concern with the royalty in not just England, but this is to be said across the world. I don't know. I don't know if I'm okay with just misconduct being the charge here. I think, I'm hoping that the actual extent of Andrew's crimes come to full fruition, and maybe that lays the groundwork for being able to roll up some of these other folks regarding their sexual misconduct and deviance with Jeffrey Epstein. That's all I can say on that. Whoopi Goldberg under some pressure, meant to cover this yesterday as well, but failed. Did not get there. So check out this clip on The View where Whoopi has to acknowledge her interaction with Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, in the name of transparency.
Oh, yeah.
Can you put up my name is in the files? Yes. And what does it say? It says, Whoopi needs a plane to get to Monaco. John Lennon's charity, it should say Julian Lennon's charity, is paying for it. They don't want to charter, so they're looking for private owners. Here's the info. And they give all the information, and they're saying do you want to offer your G2?
And it looks like they said no thanks.
Yeah.
So in other words, anybody can be on this list.
Well, this is my
Well, isn't that a pivot right there? When one of their own on The View is there, now all of a sudden it changes to, well, anybody could be on the list, right? Anybody could be on the list. Okay, let's keep going.
point, because I'm telling you, when I tell you people are trying to turn me into, I wasn't his girlfriend. I was.
People are trying to twist these things around, right?
You were too old for him.
I was not only too old, but it was at a time, where this is just not, you used to have facts before you said stuff.
But Trump is on the list 38,000 times.
Well, I can't speak to him, but I'm speaking about me because I'm getting dragged. People actually believe that I was with him. It's like, honey, come on. Yeah. Every man that I've ever been with, you've known about him because either the Inquirer wrote it about it. Yeah. People wrote about this stuff. So no, I never had this, and no, I didn't get on the plane because you know what I would have to do to get on the plane? Fly. They were trying to,
and she doesn't fly.
No, so they're trying
She's
to get me.
Babe.
They're trying to get me to get on a plane to get to this thing for Julian Lennon.
Yeah, but the thing is, they dropped like 300 names.
Yes.
And it's like flood.
That's kind of strange. She's like, you know what they would have to get me to do to get on that plane? Fly. Like she doesn't fly. Like John Madden famously took the Madden bus everywhere he went, right? He didn't go on planes. John Madden, great football legend, coach, whatever, broadcaster. He didn't fly anywhere. So Whoopi is saying, I didn't fly. They wouldn't make. She went to this event. It was in Paris. She was there. She was the speaker. So she flew somewhere.
The zone, because when you're looking, there are people like Marilyn Monroe, who's dead.
Elvis.
Yeah, a lot of people, because a lot of the reasons your name can be mentioned are news articles, third-party emails, contacts. Again, wealthy, famous people often cross in professional and social circles. So that's not the surprising part.
All right. So you've got this thing. Oh, look who decided to show up. Why, hello there.
What's up, baby?
Mr. Punctuality.
My apologies.
I think you're the only co-host I have that I have to check in on. And I did not check in on you again this morning. Again, that's my fault. The 2 times I've not texted you, radio check, you've not shown. I clearly am failing you, and I will be better, Alpha.
I'd appreciate that, bro. Like, I would appreciate that, man.
Oh my God. I understand. I give you
help
the benefit
me help you.
I give you the benefit of the doubt because it's earlier for you than it is for any other co-host. I think every other co-host I have is East Coast, except Ash. Ash is West Coast, but she's up at like 5 a.m. anyways. So I give you the benefit of the doubt. So we've got this email here. We talked about Prince Andrew being arrested, or formerly the former Duke, as I was corrected in the chat, the former Duke, formerly known as Prince Andrew, as I'm now dubbing him, arrested not for sexual deviance and gross, whatever he did with these underage girls and young women, but for misconduct, for leaking classified information, for putting out confidential reports, and whether it's for his own self-betterment, self-indulgence or not, he's been arrested. In Britain, he faces a life sentence for official misconduct, which is amazing. We need that here in the United States, by the way. So yeah, if you want to give your take on that, otherwise we'll jump into the Whoopi thing here.
Jump into the Whoopi one, and we'll go from there.
So yeah, so Whoopi, the women around her on The View are saying, well, anybody's name could be in the Epstein files. And yes, that's true. There's a lot of names that are in the Epstein files because of news releases that were briefed to the FBI, things like that. Really stupid. They're flooding the zone with all this information and creating, I don't know if it's like deception around it. They're kind of trying to throw people off the scent and put people, out there saying, oh, well, MTG is in the files, and MTG, it's like MTG wasn't in Congress until after Epstein was already dead. And MTG is mentioned in passing over COVID masks and things like that. Whoopi is not mentioned in passing. Her people directly reached out to Epstein, among others, in order to try and secure a private flight because she didn't want to fly charter interesting that she wouldn't want to fly charter. I mean, if you can afford to charter a plane to Paris, I mean, why not, right? But she wanted to fly private. And Epstein, of all people, convicted pedophile at this time, is who her people reach out to. That's just kind of strange to me.
It's strange to me too. And now you listen, I'm not going to give any of these, people that I personally believe are, pedophiles a pass, but we we don't live the multi, $100 million lifestyle either. So it's hard to imagine, like, what their mentality is like. But to the point of, just because your name's in the Epstein files is not a, implied guilt of some crime. And I agree with you on that. However, your boy Massey didn't have that approach. He didn't.
Okay.
So a few days ago, when that new batch got released, I put out one sentence. Thomas Massey's name's in the Epstein files. That's it. And people lost their, and I knew they were.
Yeah, but you bit into the flooding the zone with this and misinformation.
Oh no, what I did was strategically purposeful.
Oh, I know. You think it was, but you're doing nothing but doing the same thing. All of the big name accounts that are grifting off of these Epstein files. You're creating clicks, creating views, trying to create controversy. You might be doing it deliberately, but you're still doing it.
There's other stuff that creates clicks and views. I did it because I knew exactly that Massey crowd was going to come. I'm going to admit it this time. I rage baited the hell out of the people that I knew were going to come, because they all came. And when they came, I said, I go, context. Here's the best comment that I got the majority of the time was, context matters, context matters, context matters. And I didn't reply one time until, like, I think it was later in the day. And I said, it does. So why didn't you all care when he was bringing up President Trump? Why didn't you all care with General Flynn? Why does it matter now? Oh, because somebody you support is getting brought into it. And it was a way of getting people to pump the brakes and be like, hey, it's not, rules for thee, but not me. Because I agree with you completely. There has to be a responsibility of, all right, somebody's saying somebody's name's in the Epstein file. What does that mean? Because, like you said, if somebody went and he did a search on the internet and it populated in his history on something, or somebody sent a news article, that was going to populate somebody's name. And the few times that, I think it's 19 times that Massey's name shows up in there, it's nothing bad. And just like President Trump, when his name pops in there, outside of some like wingnut story, it's, what is it? That he's an informant? That he thought Ghislaine was a monster, or Ghislaine? It's, I still won't get it right, bro. But it's just one of those things. It's just, I wanted people to recognize their own hypocrisy.
Well, that's the takeaway from that clip with The View is they mention, Joy Behar mentions, well, Trump's in there 38,000 times. Okay. 38,000 times. 38,000 times. And you got nothing. 38,000 times and you've got nothing. Now, I was in an argument with a former Marine, a Marine. He was actually in the recruiting office when I was recruited. He wasn't a recruiter, but he was on like RA. And we, have kept in touch for the last 15 years over this. And he's full blown on the Trump derangement, Trump's in the files, prosecute Trump. And I've asked him, we're literally in a thread on social media right now where, he's throwing all this shade at President Trump. And I'm just very, like you with the Massey thing, right? Thomas Massey's in the files, very succinct, to the point. And I ask him the same thing. Show me your best piece of evidence that President Trump is complicit in anything Jeffrey Epstein's done. Show me your best piece of evidence. And all they can say, well, your boy's protecting the pedos. Oh, okay. Show me your best piece of evidence to suggest this. Oh, well, the DOJ is not releasing all the files. Oh, so for the last 10 years, when Maureen Comey has been in charge of the prosecution of Jeffrey Epstein in the Southern District in New York with all of these files at her disposal, You're telling me that Maureen Comey, James Comey's daughter, never leaked any of these files, never pulled them all aside and put them in another, whatever, so that President Trump could be prosecuted? There has been tens of thousands, I would say tens of thousands of people throughout this country for the last decade who have been scouring the internet for something on Donald Trump, and they've come up with nothing.
100% of the time.
And
the insanity to that guy that told you that, man, is who did Epstein get arrested under? What administration?
Trump.
It was Trump's.
Yep.
Who did he get prosecuted? Trump's. Who did he get sent?
He was going to get prosecuted, and then he got
yeah. So, but it was still under Trump's administration, though.
Mm-hmm.
He was in prison, in custody under Trump's administration. Who booted him out of Mar-a-Lago? Trump. Yeah, it's just
the dog that hasn't barked.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And we're getting more insight to that with some of Epstein's own statements in these file drops. But look, the stuff that he said, working with the FBI, all that stuff is an indicator to the complete opposite when it comes to Trump. But I got to do another jab at your boy Massey. I know you hate it.
I don't hate it. I just think that it's dumb.
Well, tell me this from your perspective, and be honest with me here. All right. Is Massey not one of the ones that is self-identified himself as probably one of the most transparent people in the? It's almost like the creator was like, "Don't go there."
Allergic to lies.
The creator's like, "Don't go there." I didn't want to blow out your eardrums, but isn't Massey kind of like one of the self-proclaimed seekers of transparency when it comes to Epstein?
I would say sure. I don't pay any attention to these congressional clowns.
Is he not okay? Has he not made the statement that the only reason the Epstein files are out is because me and Ro Khanna forced them to come out?
Yeah, him, MTG said the same, something similar. Yeah.
All right. So Massey has this internet clown. It's a simp, like you are an educated simp for Massey. This guy's a retarded simp for Massey, right? But to his credit, what I will say is, and by no means is this a shot on Don Huffines. Everything I've heard, I don't know him, but what I've heard about Don Huffines is for the most part been good stuff. But he comes out and he finds these articles coming out about Don Huffines and Zorro Ranch, right? Well, this simp has private communications with Massey. They go back and forth. So he reaches out to Massey, and I have evidence of this because I have the audio of it. And he reaches out to Massey and he says, "Hey, check out this information with Don Huffines and Zorro Ranch. This is in private communication."
Is this the Texas guy that bought the ranch?
Yeah. This is the guy that's Don Huffines. Don Huffines is the guy that bought it. And so this guy tells this to Massey in private, and Massey responds back with, "You're barking up the wrong tree. I'm not going there." And so it continues to go on, and this guy realizes, he starts to, because he's completely flabbergasted, right? He's like, "Wait, like what?" So he starts to look into why is my boy Massey not wanting to help me with this? And he finds out that Don Huffines is one of the huge contributors to Massey's campaigns and stuff. These guys both support each other, and so he explains in this conversation. And I have a audio video out there if people want to see it, where I go into all the details and exact quotes. But he goes back and forth with Massey, and Massey ends up telling him this: "I am going to unfollow you. And when you're done with this, I'll talk to you again." So, and the reason I bring it up, again, not a shot at Don Huffines, but if Massey is saying that Trump is protecting his elite friends in the files, why is one of his own constituents, who they, taken pictures together and, and they've had these conversations, and he goes into these spaces and he's receptive to all this other information, why is one of his own constituent bring information that's a concern to them to Massey? Does Massey say, "Nope, I ain't going there. Barking up the wrong tree. As a matter of fact, I'm going to unfollow you and unfollow him for that.
Well,
to me, that's hypocrisy.
I don't know that you like constituent. I think this guy lives in Texas, right?
No, the guy that the simp doesn't. The simp kind of go. I don't want to say what state he lives in. I don't think he lives
I mean,
in.
if you're calling him Massey's constituent, he lives in Kentucky's, what is it, 5th district?
Well, here's the other thing, and I've had this argument with people too, is, I used to be under the understanding that to be a constituent, you have to be in that state. But when you go and you look at the terms of it, it's not. You don't have to be in that state. It's anybody that is affected by the decisions, that's a voter, that's affected by the decisions of these people is considered constituent. Now, these people pay attention more to the constituents that live in their states because, there's that. And like I said, I won't argue either or, because I've heard both.
You're getting kind of federalist on me, and I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
You have your representative, you're a constituent. I'm a constituent of my representative, not except my senators.
And I actually agree with you more on that take as well. I'm just saying that's the different arguments. At the very least, it's still an American citizen. It's still somebody that's been an avid supporter of him. Like, it hasn't been like a hidden relationship between Massey and his simp. But the whole point that I'm trying to make, though, is this is a legitimate concern that's brought to him. And rather than him saying, hey,
wait. So what's the concern, that this guy bought Zorro Ranch?
The concern. Well, I don't agree with the concern because, like I said,
I just don't understand where you're getting at with this.
I don't agree with the concern. Well, let me backtrack that real quick. I believe it's a legitimate concern. I don't believe that it's going down the path they think it's going to. But if somebody says, hey, this politician bought Jeffrey Epstein's ranch and they're running, we should ask some questions about that. I agree with that. Like, I given the history and the nature of Jeffrey Epstein and his connection to politicians, I agree that, that should populate a red flag and we should look into it. I don't think that automatically means, that this guy's bad and he's tied to Epstein and he's trying to cover things up. I don't think that for 1 second, because rich people do shit like that all the time. They buy up, lands. You have serial killers whose properties are bought up and stuff like that. It's just, and that's what I'm saying. But I do agree that, it should populate a red flag. And
I don't think that's anything there.
And I agree with me personally. I think it was a strategic attack because Don Huffines bought that 2.5, 3 years ago.
He bought it for pennies on the dollar.
But the thing is you're bringing it up 48 hours before he goes in, before people are gonna have to vote for him.
So hold on. Here's the flip side of this: is the proceeds from that went towards paying victims. So he made an in-kind donation to victims of Epstein and got a property. Now, again, this is dependent on your perspective, but you might look at that as a pretty sweet property. I'm sure there's a lot of fucking crazy things in that property. And of course, there's a lot of sick shit in there, I'm sure, but there's people that will pay, handsomely for that property once it's out of the Epstein estate. I don't know. Is it a business?
I mean, like I said, I think in the what's it, Occam Razor, maybe it's just a business decision. But if you're gonna create the argument, no, he bought it to cover up. Well, there's no evidence of that. So you also have to entertain the argument that he bought it to secure it, so that this way, when a legitimate FBI or DOJ is in power, that they can go investigate it. Like,
that's a good point too.
You got to entertain both theories. But I don't want to sidetrack on all that stuff. The point that I'm trying to make here, CannCon, is that Massey, the way he handled it, that is
he unfollowed him.
He unfollowed him, and he did. There's evidence of it.
You're like back on the schoolyard. Like, I'm not going to be your friend if you don't sit with me at lunch. I'm not going to be your friend. This is so petty.
You are not listening to me here. Trust me, I don't like this simp. This simp actually pushes out a lot of misinformation about me that some of you have seen. This is not a defense of him. I think he's a complete clown. I'm trying to be professional since it's daily. I think he's a clown. But y'all ask me my real opinion on SITREP.
All right.
The point I'm trying to make is, how are you going to accuse President Trump of saying, hey, he's trying to protect his elite friends, when one of your own supporters brings you information that on its face is legitimate to at least address it in conversation? Like, you have everything else with them, but you turn around and say, you're barking up the wrong tree. I'm not going there, and I'm unfollowing you. And then to quote him, because we don't get to see this private conversation, the Simp says, he goes, it's actually worse than that. Like, I can't believe what he's saying here. To me, that's Massey showing exactly what he's accusing President Trump of.
Spotzel rather, put this in the chat. GOP politician Don Huffines plans Christian retreat at Zorro Ranch. Ugh. But there was also something in here about that he would cooperate. Let me see if I could find it real quick.
He's been saying for years
the same day they announced they would cooperate with any law enforcement investigations into potential crimes committed there.
Well, here's the thing. So a couple of people that I talked to that are like very knee deep into Texas politics, and some of them even know Don Huffines. And these are the people that I turned to when this particular, controversy popped up. And every single one of them across the board said, Don Huffines is amazing. They're like, absolutely support him. This dude is going to doge the shit out of Texas, and that's why they're coming for him. And I believe that. I think these people are pretty, they do their due diligence when it comes to Texas politics, and they all support him, So, like I said, this was not a shot at Don Huffines because, like I said, everything I've heard about him has been, not just good, but like spectacular. And the fact that if he's going to go in there and doge Texas, and they're afraid of him that much that they're going to try to weaponize Epstein against them, I mean, that kind of tells you, that the guy probably is good, but one of the things and they've showed me, like, this is not just a word of mouth, like because they sent me stuff. They even sent me some video clips, but Don Huffines has been open to people coming, the law enforcement or something like that, or professionals coming to his property for a while. His only request is that people need to come in. They need to be insured and bonded. So if something happens during these excavations and all this and people get hurt, that he doesn't get sued because he's a rich dude. So, there's a lot of misinformation being weaponized against them. And they're just trying to use the emotions that surround the word Epstein.
What office is he running for now? He's
comptroller.
No, he's the comptroller now. He's running again for re-election, or is he going? Isn't he the comptroller now?
I don't know if he's I don't think he is, but I know he's running for comptroller. So I don't know if it's as re-election or election, but it is comptroller.
Okay, so he ran in 2021. I guess he lost then.
Yeah, because he held the seat for a couple years ago.
No, he was,
and I don't know if he lost it or.
All right. Well, anyways, enough with the gossip, the scuttlebutt of Thomas Massey. Let's get into some more. This is the last thing I want to play on Epstein. I meant to play this yesterday as well. It's a little more fitting coming out after Prince Andrew, the former Duke, formerly known as Prince Andrew, was released.
Do you regret the links that there have been?
We have no links. We have a very clear record that we've been willing to talk about, which my husband has said. He took some rides on the airplane for his charitable work. I don't recall ever meeting him.
Did you ever meet Ghislaine Maxwell?
I did on a few occasions, and thousands of people go to the Clinton Global Initiative. So it to me is not something that is really at the heart of what this matter is about. They are accused, and in both cases were convicted of horrific crimes against girls and women. That should be the focus. And
there we go. So what's up?
I disappeared.
Oh, where'd you go?
There. Do you think more people go to Mar-a-Lago, or do more people go to the Clinton Foundation?
I would say probably Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, me too. So if that's her excuse of these connections, then it's just like, well, then how in the world can you guys make any insinuations about President Trump?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think anybody believes that the Clintons didn't have, like, the ties to the White House, the ties to Lolita Express, to the island, the pictures. Like, there is no, I don't understand how they can blow back. She can push back on a question like that and not get like hardcore follow-ups, like legitimate follow-up questions, instead of just allowing her to say, well, it is what it is. And that's that. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Because they're all complicit.
Of
All of
course.
them.
I think there's a big train of complicity that's going to be coming down. I think President Trump is intimately involved in the takedown of that, and I think there are people in his administration that may go down as a result of it. I don't know if it was deliberate in putting these people in positions of power, but I mean, the stuff with Lutnick is concerning, and I like Lutnick, I really do, but that's concerning, man. Like when you're going to the island post conviction, bringing your family around a man like that, like I understand you do business with the guy, but you got to understand the optics of that kind of thing. Granted, this was before the 2019, arrest and everything else, and he didn't know that there would be the scrutiny, and a lot of people continued to do business with him. I get that, but yeah, I don't know, man. This is just one of those things. It's a distraction. The only reason I even really covered it heavy today was because of the Prince Andrew thing. So go ahead.
I'm there with you. I've expanded, the normal 72-hour rule to probably the 30-day rule on some of these situations, the stuff I'm hearing about Bannon concerning, the stuff about Lutnick concerning, like it's concerning.
Bannon thing doesn't concern me at all.
Well, Bannon can't concern you, but Lutnick does. The stuff surrounding Bannon's worse than Lutnick.
Bannon was doing something deliberate. Bannon was deliberate.
So was Lutnick.
No. Lutnick went to the island. Bannon did not. Bannon did not fly on the plane. He did not take the medical doctors that were offered. He did take the watches, but that's because they were shipped to him. But Bannon was trying to build rapport with Epstein because he was going to be interviewing him in a very long interview for a documentary. Epstein had to have seen, by the time Epstein and Bannon got together, Epstein had to have seen the writing on the wall that there's going to be something coming down on this. And he had to find somebody that was going to be pro MAGA that would let him tell his story. I listened to the 2 hours of Bannon. You don't call somebody the devil and ask them in an interview, like, are you the devil? And then, ask him about, why do you think women, with all the heinous things that you've done to women, the depravities that you've, put on women, how do you think women are our world, going to be the future of thinking? He was very rough on Epstein. He was very flattery in terms of his professional attributes, his financial wisdom and things like that. But I can't wait to see this Bannon interview. I think a lot of people are getting on the bash Bannon train right here, and when they see the 5-part series that he's going to release here soon, they're gonna understand why Bannon did what he did.
I agree with you. However, not including because I agree with everything you just said on what I think is coming down the pipeline, but just off what we've seen right now, the look's not good for Bannon. It's not, especially with the conversation that goes back and forth between Epstein and him surrounding President Trump. It's not. I do believe that this is, listen, my personal opinion, I'm thinking that Bannon, he did what a UC does. You develop a rapport, make a dude trust you. You have these conversations because you're the one that's going to put the nail in the coffin. That's my personal opinion. However, I'm not going to bind myself to that because I don't know what direction this is going to go in. I think me and you will be right on this, but I can't say that with absolute confidence either. So the only thing I can really say right now is it ain't looking good for Bannon. But at the same time, the way it ain't looking good for Lutnick, there's rational explanations for that, if he had his wife and his kids with him, it is, I would say rational to assume you're probably not going to do some of that nasty shit in front of your wife and kids. So it was probably a meeting that he had with Epstein on the island that was going to be beneficial to him in some form, or him developing a rapport. The fact of the matter is Trump has not come out and said anything negative about either one of these two guys. As a matter of fact, he's done the opposite. So is he doing that to keep these people's names in the spotlight so that the hammer gets dropped on them? Because you got to remember, President Trump, what has he said about Hillary Clinton? Oh, she's a great woman. She's good. And we always say, well, we know he's full of shit there. So to me, I don't really judge Trump on what he says. I judge him more on the actions of what he does with these people to kind of really understand. Because listen, the dude Trump does drop. He trolls us with some of the comments he makes about people. And sometimes it's just like, is he trolling now or is he really supporting these guys?
When you worked UC, if somebody got access to your text messages, communications with the subject of your undercover
look
work,
like a complete crook.
you would look like a complete crook. Then your report comes out, the arrest is made, your report comes out, and all of a sudden it's like, now I see what he did. Same thing with Bannon. I think. Now, I could be wrong. This documentary could come out and it could be an absolute nothing burger. But I think it's going to lead to more things than just the documentary.
Dude, if people actually, this would probably happen if I ran for politics. Somebody would probably go, where I'm I'm working UC, I'm in a car where we got, some really bad, gang members and who run a red light and the red light cam goes off, right? Which when you're working UC, you love that because you get to tell your boys, hey, grab this footage because this is something that we can use in a case file. But imagine if somebody went and grabbed a red light camera, static image, and it's, hey, there's Alpha, and that dude's a convicted murderer, and that dude transports drugs. Alpha's crooked. It's to the point you're making. Well, that image would look very incriminating.
Yeah.
Until you further searched it and you saw, oh, that image was in a case file because he was working undercover. So I hear you, and I agree with you. I'm just saying, we'll see.
All right, we got to move on here. Before we do that, I do want to hit another sponsor, guys. If you or someone you love struggles with blood sugar and A1C, you need to hear this. It is well known that the expensive meds and the popular shots have dangerous side effects. Well, Creator's Bounty has developed the perfect alternative. It's an herbal supplement called Elohetrium. Elohetrium is a 100% natural formula that is proven to dramatically lower your blood sugar and A1C. It uses 7 healthy ingredients, no stimulants, no junk. These 7 ingredients would cost you over $150 if you bought them all separately, but here is the best part. There's no bad side effects, only good ones. We're talking sugar cravings gone, inflammation reduced, and stable energy all day with 0 crashes. Seriously, most people are getting better results than they did with the harsh meds, but without the risk. Elohetrium is made in the USA at an FDA-registered facility, fully tested, and backed by a no questions asked 90-day money-back guarantee. The friendly folks at Creator's Bounty offer fast, free shipping 5 days a week from Oklahoma. Head on over to creatorsbounty.com/rumble and take advantage of this special offer today. All right. And thank you to the fine folks over there. Big fans of theirs. We got their products and we've been using them, and it's pretty damn good stuff. I do want to point this out. Ash had sent this to me. She texted this over to me, and ALX put this out on X government website, and this is the website, and it's just a Paul Revere figure, or George Washington. I don't know which one you want to go with. Freedom is coming. Information is power. Reclaim your human right to free expression. Get ready.
And if you guys haven't done so already, go to, and I don't have the link on me. I think that link might even take you there. But go sign up for the White House emails. That system that they have. It's operational now, so you can sign up for it and start getting those alerts. Before you leave the Epstein thing, and you might have covered this while I was late because I was saving a cat from a tree and a bus that went off a bridge, and I was rescuing kids. Did you cover the Prince Andrew being arrested?
Yes.
Okay.
I started the show. I
I
started the show 30 minutes before you arrived.
22.
And then I asked you.
22.
27. I counted.
I looked at the clock. Well, it's when you saw me versus when I came in. And I'm going to savor those 8 minutes because it worked. No, I figured you covered it because that's huge news. But just in case maybe you didn't see it, I wanted to make sure I brought it up.
Yeah, he was arrested for misconduct, not for anything of his sexual nature. It's Al Capone and taxes, right? That's the same. That's the comparison that I made. Al Capone.
I think it's still that's a powerful move, though.
I agree. All right, real quick, I do want to cover this post from Paul Sperry. President Obama and his national security advisor, Susan Rice, were so distraught after Trump won in 2016 that they literally broke down and cried in front of White House staff, according to 1,100 hours of new audio and video compiled by Columbia University in cooperation with the Obama Foundation. After all they'd built, they feared their accomplishments were, quote unquote, at risk of being torn down by a, quote unquote, con man and a, quote unquote, clown. Ergo, Trump had to be stopped? Question mark. Kind of like that. That's going to lead me into, well, actually, I've got another, clip on Columbia University that we're going to get into in a little bit here. But I do want to play this clip here from Caroline Leavitt being asked. This is one of the most absurd questions I've ever heard asked in a White House press conference. Check this out.
Then yesterday in his statement about Jesse Jackson, the president said, despite the fact that I'm falsely and consistently called a racist by the scoundrels and lunatics on the radical left, Democrats all, it was always my pleasure to help Jesse along the way. Where or when does the president believe he's been falsely called racist?
Now watch Caroline Leavitt. That was a serious question right there. That was a serious question right there. Watch Caroline Leavitt's like natural reaction to that question. Here we go.
You're kidding, right? I will pull you plethora of examples. I'm going to get my team in that room to start going through the internet of radical Democrats throughout the years, Ed, who have accused this president falsely of being a racist. And I'm sure there's many people in this room and on network television across the country who have accused him of the same. In fact, I know that because I've seen it with my own eyes. And the president very much looks forward to having an event later this afternoon at 3 p.m. to celebrate Black History Month and to talk about how his policies are advancing opportunity and prosperity for.
All right, so we can kind of end that there. That's the whole gist of it. So, of course, Rapid Response 47 put this out.
He is a thin-skinned racist bully.
He has been racist.
There's never been a president in American history who's been as so openly racist.
A racist in chief.
The president oftentimes resorts to very bigoted, xenophobic, Islamophobic, racist rhetoric.
All right, so we've got those clips there, but this is probably my favorite one right here. Well, actually, let's play a couple more. We got this one here.
Days out from the election, you've been labeled a racist. You've been called a sexist. How do you respond to that?
Walk away.
I am the least racist person you've ever met.
Taking no shit from no one. And then, like, you ever watch, like those shows where, they show somebody that they go back in the past and like you'll have like a white guy and a black guy doing like sports commentary or something, right? And they go back like 30 years and you go from like this, like the black guy specifically has like a clean haircut, like he's shaved head or whatever. And you go back and he's got like the 70s. He's got like a big afro or something like that. Check out Don Lemon back in 2016, dude. He's the epitome of that flashback.
This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon. The president of the United States is racist. A lot of us already knew that.
The president of the United States is racist. Like, that's something out of Family Guy. Like the news anchor that's like, you're gonna get wet.
I know they bring up the relationships and friendships that he had with a lot of black people, but unless the information I saw was fake, but this was pre-AI, wasn't Boss Man kind of smashing on a black model?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's all. I was just putting that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to. So this is a longer clip. It's from pre-2024 campaign, and this sums up the media, and it also sums up how Trump views "quote unquote" racism.
Not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabbit to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir. By
the way, the white supremacist at his Mar-a-Lago resort was brought there by a black man unbeknownst to President Trump. To stupidity. Also, when they said go back to your countries, he was saying if you hate America so much, go back to your countries. Also, the rabid dog comment that could apply to anybody. They just happen to be black. So if somebody's black, I guess you can't throw any insults at them whatsoever because it's automatically racist. That's fucking retarded.
Now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Best answer ever.
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so
in such a horrible manner? First question. You don't even say hello.
By the way, this is at the National Association of Black Journalists. And listen to the crowd's reaction, man. They're all on board with President Trump.
Oh, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much. And, you know, and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke. And I saved them and I gave them long-term financing and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, you know, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was
Mr. President,
wrong.
I would love
I think
if you
it's
can
a
answer
very
the question
nasty
on your rhetoric
question.
and why you
I have
believe that
answered
black
the
voters
question.
should trust you with another
I
4
have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President
That's
Johnson,
my
who signed the
answer.
Voting Rights
And
Act.
for you to
The best part is better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act. You know, the guy that's rumored to have said, I'll have these N-words voting Democrat for the next century. Yeah, that's your go-to. Johnson, really? Lyndon B. Johnson. That's where we're going with that. Yeah.
That's what they gave her on a flashcard. That's what she's got to read.
Oh man, yeah. Like if he pivots to the Lincoln comment, go with that. Check out this woman that was at the White House. I think this was yesterday. You saw this?
Yeah.
Bro, you ever need a motivating speech? Get yourself a black grandma. Get yourself a black grandma, and you will get the most fire motivation that you've ever heard in your entire life. Like, I think of my grandma, you know, she was Norwegian on one side and Sicilian on the other. Nah, you couldn't get this kind of fire out of them.
One thing I like about him, he keeps it real, just like grandma. I appreciate that because I can trust him because he tells exactly how he feels and what he thinks. Thank God for this president. I am filled, my cup runneth over. Because he allowed his constituents, his people to come to my house to interview me.
By the way, she doesn't know the definition of constituents either, Alpha. I'm just throwing that out.
Or maybe she does.
To talk about the murder of my grandson. It seemed like nobody cared. I'm an advocate for murder. I marched. I rallied. I pulled out other families in the District of Columbia that had murders and did not have answers. Ooh. We marched and we rallied, and nobody heard me, Democrats. Get mad at me. Until this Republican sent his constituents, his people out there to interview me in my home. Have you ever heard of a thing? Then they invited me twice before Congress to testify for the beautiful bill that's going to change crime in the district. If you kill somebody, okay, you take a life, you do life. Just that simple.
There.
If you do a harsh crime, you do harsh time. Just that simple. And then we need National Guard, and which we did years ago. He brought it on. I love him. I don't want to hear nothing you got to say about that racist stuff. And don't be looking at me on the news, hating on me because I'm standing up for somebody that deserves to be standing up for. Get off the man's back. Let him do his job. He's doing the right thing. Back up off of him. And Grandma said it.
Damn.
he loved every bit of that, bro. You look at his facial expression and he's just like, let her cook. Somebody in the back's on his earpiece and he's like, I hear you. I'm gonna let her cook. I'm gonna let her cook.
Absolute fire, man. He also nominated, or he put up Dr. Ben Carson for the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Check this out from yesterday.
Ben's getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the biggest. It's the highest award you can have outside of the Congressional Medal of Honor. But it's better because, you know, a lot of people get the Congressional Medal of Honor. They're not around. You get them, they're not around. Whereas we don't have to go that far, generally speaking. But it's the highest award, civilian. And then you have the matching is the Congressional Medal of Honor, both tremendous. So Ben, I'll be seeing you back here pretty soon, I think, and you're going to get the award. You'll probably fill up this room. I said, we'll do it in the Oval Office. He said, sir, it's not big enough. I said, what? So we're going to do it right here, okay?
So
I really hope RFK gets one too.
Yeah, me too. For Maha.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. You know why you mentioned Ben's getting it now and the timing. Obviously, I just really, truly, wholly hope that RFK gets one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he definitely deserves one. During that, this is from Fox News. During that meeting, the announcement came as Trump mixed tributes and cultural references with policy and political claims, including criminal justice reform, crime reduction, and border enforcement, while hosting, quote, many exceptional African-American leaders and patriots at the White House. He addressed the death of Reverend Jesse Jackson, saying, quote, I wanted to begin by expressing a sadness at the passing of a person who was, I knew very well. Jesse was a piece of work. He was a piece of work, but he was a good man. I just want to pay my highest respect to Reverend Jesse Jackson, calling him a quote unquote real hero and saying, quote, he really was special with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts. And then, of course, as was shown right there, the crowd breaks out into 4 more years chants. Yeah, gotta love it. Now, in terms of the Congressional Medal of Honor, or Congressional Medal of Freedom, excuse me, not honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, not the Congressional Medal of Honor. I was looking through just this morning some of the past recipients, and of course, you have names that are, you know, people that probably were deserving of it, and then a lot that weren't. Ashton B. Carter, for one, former Defense Secretary. He's the one that famously introduced transgenderism to our military. He did that through a letter. The Secretary of Defense somehow able to change, you know, defense policy and allow transgender to serve. But when President Trump tried to undo that through an executive order, it was challenged in court and upheld that he did not have the authority to do that. I think eventually, you know, it was gone up and they reeled that back in. But that's the absurdity that we're dealing with today, that Ashton Carter, as Secretary of Defense, was able to allow them in, but President Trump, as the commander-in-chief of the entire military, last time I checked, that's higher up in the rank structure. You were a Marine. That's commander-in-chief is higher than Secretary of Defense, right? Last I checked. Yeah. But he couldn't undo it. Hillary Clinton also received one. Lionel Messi, kind of strange there. I don't even think he's an American citizen. He's Argentinian, I believe, the soccer player. Although he lives in Miami, he plays from Miami, so I don't know. And then, of course, George Soros also received the Presidential Medal of Freedom under Joe Biden. Yep. 100%. All right. And then there's another heartfelt moment yesterday. And then we'll get into some more news stuff. But this is another great moment.
Well, I ditto, to God be the glory. And we're grateful for our president. He's doing some tremendous work. And I want to remind those that don't know that this was prophesied. So you weren't supposed to have the second term when it came about. This is your season. And God said that it was going to be rough the first 2 years and that things were going to happen. But then the last 2 years are going to be great. Well, and so. Yes, you're going to do some tremendous things. And so for that, we thank you. On behalf of all the mothers all around the world, I'm from Texas. I live in a zip code that I didn't have an opportunity to have a choice to go to school. And so when I raised my children, I wanted a better opportunity for them. And I'm so grateful to ACE scholarships and all the doors that the president is opening for education. My son was in a school that he didn't have any voice, and he found drugs in school, and he died. And so I'm here today to just show my appreciation for all the moms around the world. We have a choice now. This choice is so important to mothers. I have a child that, because I had a choice, she's in private school. She's thriving. She's thriving. She's going to be an anesthesiology nurse, and she's doing great. And ACE scholarships was a big part of that. Changing education changes everything. Changing education changes everything. In my zip code, it feels like we were locked in a cage, and being locked in a cage and can't get out. And because of all of the things that you're doing for education, now we can get out and soar. Our children can have a chance to be prosperous, just like other children. And I thank you for that. This is a great opportunity. So on behalf of all the mothers all around the world, I stand here and I give you your flowers while you can still get them. Thank you. I appreciate you. Give me a hand.
Good stuff right there, man. That is a man that's purely a racist, understanding the opportunities that don't exist in a lot of these communities. Like she said, a zip code that feels like it's caged in because there is no opportunity. You can't get out of it. You're stuck in a perpetual cycle. And President Trump, through the ACE scholarship, was able to help these people break out. And that is more of what we need to see. Defunding public education and getting into privatized education, where you don't have the federal government and even state governments necessarily putting their thumbs so heavily on the scales and tilting it against these children.
I mean, he had me at dating the models, but I mean, everything else is just a plus. You know what I mean? Like, he had already won me over right there, bro. Like,
all right. I want to jump into this article here from Just the News. Kevin Hassett says Federal Reserve researchers should face punishment for flawed tariff analysis. That is a very, like, calling out somebody to face punishment or discipline, I think is another word he uses, is a very strong word to use when talking about somebody like that. But it says Kevin Hassett, director of the National Economic Council of the United States, said that the Federal Reserve researchers who found that President Donald Trump's tariffs hit Americans hardest should face discipline over the analysis. Quote, I think it's the worst paper I've ever seen in the history of the Federal Reserve System, Hassett told CNBC. Federal Reserve Bank of New York researchers and David Weinstein, an economics professor at Columbia University, wrote the paper. Now, there more on that. Keep that Weinstein guy's name in front of mind. Quote, U.S. firms and consumers continue to bear the bulk of the economic burden of the high tariffs imposed in 2025, according to the report. Quote, the people associated with this paper should presumably be disciplined because what they've done is they've put out a conclusion which has created a lot of news that's highly partisan based on analysis that wouldn't be accepted in a first semester economics class, Hassett said. Philip Magnus, a senior fellow at the Independent Institute, said that, quote, the Fed report found that about 90% of tariff incidents is passed through onto American consumers and businesses. This finding is in line with several other independent studies. Sure, they're all independent. The Kiel Institute for the World Economy found that Americans are paying almost the entire cost of the tariffs. Goldman Sachs economists projected in October that American consumers will pay 55% of the tariff costs. U.S. businesses will pay 22%, and foreign exporters will pay 18%. They will pay those costs if they continue to import from foreign countries instead of onshoring businesses back to America, putting America back to work, creating high quality manufacturing jobs, technological manufacturing jobs, and those sorts of things. Now, I'll let you comment before I move on to the next part, but if you want to jump in on that.
And that's the part that he's not including in that analysis, is if you're going to do that analysis, incorporate why. Why would they be doing this? Because it takes you down the conversation that you introduced right there. This is designed. These are the growing pains to bring that manufacturing and production back on U.S. soil. Because then what does that do? That creates jobs. What do those jobs do?
Tax revenue.
100%. But they don't want to go that way. They don't want to say, well, the reason we're here is because now everything is outsourced and we're making other countries rich on the backs of Americans. And this is the pathway to correct that course. And there's going to be growing pains in that process.
Yeah. And it creates, and, I'm broadly against federal income tax. However, I do think that some sort of a corporate tax is something that could be, assessed, and it would create more of that corporate tax. And if you decide you still want to import from foreign countries, fine. The tariffs go towards trade deficit reductions, right? And we've seen massive trade deficit reductions, historical trade deficit reductions since President Trump implemented these tariffs. But case in point, so David Weinstein, professor at Columbia, this is what he said back in March 16th of 2025 with NPR, how Trump's tariffs are shaping the economy. Scroll down here a little bit, and I'm just going to show you how out of touch with reality these people are, and without understanding why Trump is smarter than them, period. Trump is smarter than them, or at least he surrounds himself with smarter people. David Weinstein in this interview says other sectors are going to shrink in response to the tariffs. That is, in order for us to make more steel or shoes or whatever, that's going to pull people out of jobs in high-tech sectors. Rasco, the interviewer, said, could you give us an example of that? Somebody else in the interview, Kurtz Leben, says, yeah, so when Weinstein illustrated it with iPhones, if you put tariffs on iPhones coming into the U.S. from China, you make those more expensive. So then, and Weinstein interrupts and says, Apple is going to sell fewer iPhones. And while that does create some jobs for people assembling iPhones, those are not high-wage jobs. So we're giving up on high-wage jobs to create low-wage jobs, and that's the real danger of this policy. Now, that was in March of 2025. Fast forward to, when was this? I think this was last week. Fast forward to last week, Apple increases U.S. commitment to $600 billion, announcing American Manufacturing Program.
Read the small print.
Apple supports more than 450,000 jobs with thousands of suppliers and partners across all 50 states, including significant expansions in Arizona, California, Iowa, Kentucky, Nevada, New York, North Carolina, Oregon, Texas, and Utah.
That's almost 500,000 jobs, bro.
Good paying jobs.
Yeah.
Re-onshoring industry back into the United States. And those professors, the authoritative sources that have been ripping on Trump's policy, specifically using Apple right there. Well, it's going to be more expensive for your iPhones. They're going to have to pay more to import these iPhones, or they just build them here. Bring it back to the United States, baby.
There's just some people, man, that all the factual information is just never going to be enough because they just hate them. They just hate them. I have a cousin who's one of those people, TDS, right? And it was a more basic discussion. I didn't go into like the specifics of the cost of tariffs and things like that. It was just the ideology of it was most of the conversation. It's not fair to charge countries that are trying to send goods into the U.S. more than in the U.S. Like it should just be the same cost for everyone, and then people get to decide what they want to buy, right? Like that was the ideology of his position. But like I said, he's hardcore liberal, and he loves Disneyland. So I said, you probably know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
So I said, the ideology here, the thought process here is what you think is wrong, and Trump's an evil dude for doing that. And he's just like, hell yeah, he is. It should be fair. I said, all right, man. I go, you live in Arizona. So if you want to come to Disneyland in California, who pays more, me or you? And he was just like,
same in Florida. We do the same thing in Florida.
Yeah, a lot of theme
Florida
parks.
resident discounts.
He goes, me, and I said, why? Because I don't live in California no more. Oh, so Disneyland has a lower price for the people that live in the state to encourage more locals to go than people not from the state. And he goes, that's different. I said, right. I go, it's an ideology conversation. It's not different. It's
Yep.
not.
Just to real quick, going back to the Apple thing, the 450,000 jobs with suppliers and partners in all 50 states, right? Now, I don't know. It also says manufacturing at 79 U.S. factories. I don't know if the 450,000 jobs takes into consideration the 79 factories, but think of how many people are going to be employed building those factories. Construction workers, people that are building the machinery and the equipment that's going into there.
Concrete companies, rebar
concrete,
companies,
steel,
electricians, plumbers.
paint. I mean, just the amount of infrastructure that's being supported by that. And I mean, if you really want to do one better, buy American made, products that you're putting into that company. I mean, they're still going to get away from that. Oh, wait, but there's tariffs on the stuff coming from China. So yeah, you know what? I'm incentivized to buy American PVC or American steel or American paint, those kinds of things. So I'm all for it. And then just real quick to hit on the comparison here, consumer price index since 1913. Let's scroll all the way down to the bottom. And here we are down here. 2025 came in at 2.6. It's pretty good. It's better than any year under Joseph R. Biden, where he was at 4.7, 8.0, 8.0, 4.1, and 2.9. And his first year, 2.6. And we're not even at full golden age yet.
And
right?
that's with resistance.
Exactly. That's with massive resistance. Everything he does is challenged in some form or fashion. I'm trying to see the last time we saw 8%. 1981. It was up in 10%, 13, and 11% under
some rough years right there, 79, 80, 81.
Yeah, that was Carter, wasn't it? 1980. Reagan didn't win till 84, and 88. Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was because Bush was. No, it was Reagan 80. That was the oil, the energy crisis that we had in 1980, and so that was Reagan.
I'm looking.
Why? Yeah, it was Reagan. But it was the tail end of Carter, they're saying. So 79, I guess. But that wasn't the main point. We've also got inflation rates, lowest ever. Well, lowest compared to Biden. I shouldn't say lowest ever because they're not the lowest ever. But compared to Biden was in 10.1. I mean, he had double digits for almost a solid year in 2022. Trump has not had one over 3.1 is the highest inflation rate. But here's the key right here, Alpha, is when you look at gasoline prices and energy right here. This is January of 2020. So when Biden takes over is right here. And then it shoots all the way up here, $5 a gallon in June of 2022. Then it kind of flatlines.
Just at that peak, it was almost $10 a gallon in Hollywood, California.
Yeah, that's nuts, man.
I still have the pictures. I know. I was there. That's back when I was working the K9, and I used to go to Hollywood to work a lot. And I literally would wait till I was out of that county to put gas. Like, that's how crazy it was.
That's nuts, man. So this is since he took office, right about here. You're seeing the drop right there. Big drop, about 40 cents a gallon. What else we got? We got eggs. Here's another one. We'll pull up eggs. There's the high right there. March of 2025 screams down. So January, February, March, 2 months in, and now it's just dropped to almost where it's supposed to be at. So
I want to mention something though. It is my tinfoil hat part, but I don't think it's so tinfoil. That what preceding those prices was a bunch of egg factories that were being burnt down.
Yes.
And guess what we haven't seen this last year? A bunch of egg factories burning down.
Isn't that weird?
Just saying.
I mean, did we highlight that? Like chickens and eggs, we saw a lot of, and we had culling herds too for the bird flu, right? The avian influenza. So you had culling of flocks that way as well. But the 2021, 2022, it seemed like every other day we were reporting on one of these, like crazy things here. So, all right, we are almost.
I want to address. It's a good statement that was made in the chat. C. Kruffoff says, but in Iowa, the Apple data center will consume massive amounts of water. Is it really worth it? I'd rather have water. This is another thing people are going to learn. The water crisis is something that was manufactured. And I know this because I'm in the state of California. We've created a water crisis with the agricultural people, with people that just want to water their lawns. Especially here in Southern California, we had a lot of lawns that were grass, very, very beautiful, especially out in the area. And what they're doing was they were penalizing people that went over a certain water usage to force desert landscaping, because they said that there's this water crisis. Meanwhile, the entire time they're dumping water into the ocean. So this water crisis that they're telling everybody about, what everybody's going to learn is it don't exist. There is plenty of water.
In 2000, I was in high school, so like 2001, 2002. I think I was a senior. We had the same thing in Florida. We had like a crazy drought. And this was legit. Like we did have, because you can see the drainage, the retention ponds and everything in Florida, and they were way down. You could see the Everglades. I live on the border of the Everglades. You could see the Everglades was like just way down. And we were in the same way. Like if your house number ended in odd numbers, you could water your lawn Monday and Wednesday. And if it ended even, Tuesday, Thursday, that kind of thing. And they would literally fine you. And we're like, this is so stupid. Like, but anyways.
Well, and the crazy thing is if you go look, and I don't know how Florida's structured with the canal system, and in California, because I like to go to the river that was in Arizona, right? Lake Havasu, and you could see, like,
you stopped by Loaded Gun yet?
I haven't been to the river in quite some time, but I used to go all the time, and I will be going back if God continues to bless me. But I remember when you go out there, you could see the water line, like, and you had to know, because you had to know where to take the boats through. That way you don't freaking, put your boat on some sandbar or something like that. But then you realize, like, just let the dam water come in. Like, well, like all you gotta do is just go open that little door that has all that water back there. No, you can't do it because there's a water crisis. It's just like, y'all a bunch of liars, man.
Yep. All right. So actually I lied. I have two more big stories to cover. But we can cover this real quick. So yesterday we talked about Zohran Mamdani and the 9.5% property tax increase that he's proposed in order to accommodate his $127 billion budget for New York City. Did you see this? For the first time, Alpha, in over 20 years, Mamdani is proposing raising property taxes to fill in the gaps in his budget by 9.5% for more than 3 million New Yorkers whose median income is $122,000. That's not a lot of money in New York City. $122,000 in New York City that's not even a lot of money in South Florida anymore. And our cost of living is significantly lower than New York City. But Mamdani, democratic socialist rule. Total sarcasm.
Did you see the video of him doing it? Like, he was proud, bro.
Oh, I know. But did you see Ron DeSantis' response?
No.
I know a lot of people don't like him. I think he's okay. I think he's doing a good job in Florida. His response was fucking epic. Florida, 23 million people. New York City, 8 million people. Florida's entire budget for the state is $117 billion. New York City, with 8 million people, 1/3 of Florida's population, $127 billion, $10 billion more than Florida. That is a failure. That is a failure. And then if you look at the original post here, let me pull it up. The original post from Geiger Capital here has a breakdown of what Mamdani's budget entails. 40% for the Department of Energy. Wait, aren't you guys like all green in New York and all the windmills and the solar panels and all the electric cars and all that shit? How is that? 26% for social services, 12%. So 1/3 or half, half for NYPD, FDNY, and DSNY. I don't know what that is. I don't know what DSNY is. What's DSNY? Department of Social something? Department of State? Department of State? Department of Security? I don't know. 5% for health and all the other stuff there. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was pretty epic.
66% going to the DOJ and social services.
That's nuts.
I would love to see what that looks like for California, man. So go make fun of Newsom.
That is crazy, man. Like Florida with 23 million people, $117 billion, and I'm pretty sure that's a balanced budget in Florida. I think we've had a budget surplus the last couple of years.
Here's what I'm gonna say to everyone in the rest of the state. Like Fork, New York, and Fork, California. The second New York and California get their governments legitimate, that boosts the economy of the entire country. These two states are so important to the U.S. economy, and one of the reasons that our U.S. economy has not looked as good as it could be potentially is because of the self-destruction that we have in these two states.
Yep. All right, so let's get into this story here. This is the one that I kind of skipped over. I jumped around here a little bit, and here comes the fear mongering. Axios: Trump moves closer to a major war with Iran
that'll last 4 days.
Yeah, exactly. The guy that hasn't, the first president in 4 decades that hasn't started a new war, that's, pushed off all the attempts to thrust him into a war. Now all of a sudden, here it comes, major war.
We got him this time.
Yeah, this is crazy. Stand on the rug, Axios. Get on that rug, just like you guys did on the 12-day war. That's what they called it, the 12-day war. You mean the bombing of the nuclear facilities, allegedly, in order to get Israel to stop using Iran nuclear simulation as justifying their continued push against them. I don't know. The Trump administration is closer to a major war in the Middle East than most Americans realize. It could begin very soon, Alpha. The sources noted it would likely be a joint U.S.-Israeli campaign that's much broader in scope than the Israel-led 12-day war last June. Trump came close to striking Iran in early January over the killing of thousands of protesters by the regime. Really? But when the window of opportunity passed, the administration shifted to a 2-track approach. Nuclear talks paired with a massive military buildup. What do we call that, Alpha? Nuclear talks paired with a massive military buildup. There's like a 3-letter phrase that Trump uses all the time. I'm trying to think. It's like something through strength.
Peace through strength. No.
Peace through strength. No, that's what it is. Peace through strength. Peace, talks, strength. Hey, just in case you want to F around and find out, we've got all this over here. Yeah. By delaying and bringing back so much force to bear, Trump has raised expectations for what an operation will look like if a deal can't be reached. And right now, a deal does not look likely. Challenge accepted. President Trump, the art of the deal maker himself, the deal maker extraordinaire, who you guys were saying, just last year, we're saying Apple iPhones are going to cost so much more and they're not going to be available and blah, blah, blah. And then Apple's like, hold on. $100 billion in America. We're not doing with these tariffs. Trump was right. We capitulate. I concede. Vice President J.D. Vance told Fox News that the talks, quote unquote, went well with the delegation that they sent to, I think it was in Geneva. I don't know. But they sent, a delegation to go talk. But in other ways, it was very clear that the president has set some red lines that the Iranians are not yet willing to actually acknowledge and work through. Trump's armada has grown to include 2 aircraft carriers, a dozen warships, hundreds of fighter jets, and multiple air defense systems. Some of that firepower is still on its way. More than 150 U.S. military cargo flights have moved weapon systems and ammunition to the Middle East. By the way, it's probably stuff that we sold them because we've been selling a hell of a lot of stuff to the Middle East. So, you know, the fact that they moved it there doesn't mean much. It's like, hey, we're going to put this right here. But when all of this dust settles, that's actually your stuff. But we're just going to put on an air show, an air and sea show here. Yeah. Just in the past 24 hours, another 50 fighter jets, F-35s, F-22s, and F-16s are headed to the region. Trump's military and rhetorical buildups make it hard for him to back down without major concession from Iran on its nuclear program. It's not in Trump's nature, and his advisors don't view the deployment of all that hardware as a bluff. What? Let me read that again, Alpha. It's not in Trump's nature, and his advisors don't view the deployment of all that hardware as a bluff. It's not. I mean, look, they could be putting this out to fearmonger the Iranians. Maybe Axios is working with the Trump admin now and putting out a story like this, like, hey, guys, be careful. Trump's totally not bluffing. The guy that hasn't started a war in 4 decades and is the master negotiator, totally not bluffing.
I mean, just look at what he's done in this administration. Houthis, quick and done.
Yep.
You know, Iran, quick and done. You know, the wars he's prevented. Venezuela was less than 12 hours. Like,
yep.
You know,
With Trump,
go ahead.
Let me finish and I'll give you the first word. With Trump, anything can happen, but all signs point to him pulling the trigger if talks fail. The Israeli government, which is pushing for maximalist scenario targeting regime change as well as Iran's nuclear missile programs, is preparing for a scenario of war within days, according to Israeli officials. Now, I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that whatsoever. But I'll give you the first word.
We probably are going to strike Iran or somebody in the area. It's probably going to happen. But here's the good news, folks. The State of the Union's on what, the 25th, 24th?
Mm-hmm.
So it's whoever we strike, it's going to be very short lived because Trump will be done with it before he goes to give his State of the Union speech, because he's going to talk about the success of what it was. He's not going to go in there and have it be a distraction of, well, this is going on. He'd be like, hey, look what we just did the last 48 hours. We went and laid a can of whoop ass, got everything under control. And again, we've prevented, more endless wars. So I actually am encouraged that if that strike happens today or tomorrow, that we will see the conclusion of it before whenever the State of the Union is. I think it's the 24th.
That is actually a fantastic point. That the State of the Union is coming up next week. I think it's on Tuesday. That's a fantastic point, because he wouldn't. It's a great thing to talk about at the State of the Union, right? But what does he want the message to be? Does he want to make it peace through strength or strength through strength, right? Like peace through exerted strength or peace through a show of force? Like, hey, realize we have this capability. And I tend to think, I don't think there's going to be anything kinetic in this. I think President Trump would rather settle this without firing a shot and be able to portray that message to the American public than to, kind of go down the same warmongering neocon playbook of, yeah, we blew the shit out of those bastards and brought them to their knees. That's not, Trump allegedly did that in Iran the first time with the B-2s and everything like that. Although I think a lot of that was strategic, psychological operation against Israel to get them to concede that, hey, the nuclear program's gone. We can't keep drumming up the war drum over Iran's nuclear program because it's gone now. Trump took it out. I think we're going to see the same thing here. I think Iran is going to, and I think it will be before Tuesday, so that he has that messaging for the State of the Union.
I think we are going to see strikes, but I think he's going to be targeting the deep state targets that exist in Iran, and it'll be under the guise of Iran was trying to do this and trying to do that, but we know that the deep state is in there. We know that they're.
We have a U.S. embassy there. It's a good place to start.
Just that was humor, folks. That's
very humorous.
That was humor, folks. Just saying.
If you don't think the CIA is operating out of our embassies, I don't know what to tell you at this point. But if you also don't think the CIA is manipulating the cultural and political regimes in Iran, then I really don't know what to tell you at this point.
Along with MI6 and Mossad.
Yeah, of course. The entire Five Eyes agencies have been doing that, going back to Carter. Well, not Carter himself, but Brzezinski, Kissinger, and all those guys. I do want to point out the sheer irony of Axios drumming up the war drum, beating the war drum, while this is what President Trump is doing right now as we speak.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
This was right before we went live.
Well, thank you very much. This is a big day and lots of people watching, and especially from other countries, the leaders of, as you know, the other countries, because we have a large group of leaders, and the ones that aren't here are watching on Zoom. I hope they enjoy it. And the press, we appreciate it very much, so respectful. You've been so respectful of what we're doing. What we're doing is very simple, peace. It's called the Board of Peace, and it's all about an easy word to say, but a hard word to produce, peace. But we're going to produce it, and we've been doing a really good job, and some of these leaders that are with us have helped me very much during just this first year. We have a first year like probably no other ever in our country, because we settled 8 wars and I think a 9th to come. It's turned out to be a tougher one. I thought that was going to be the easiest one. But with war, you never know what's easy and what's not so easy. But we've had a great relationship, and I've become friendly with so many of the people.
So yeah, while Axios is banging the war drum, war is imminent, Chicken Little, the sky is falling, President Trump's out there at the Board of Peace like, hey, we can do this. Peace is tough, but we can do it. I don't know. I don't buy it, man.
It's all about dooming and blackpilling. He's going to war. Palantir is going to enslave us all. Palantir is why we're finding all these illegals so fast, folks, whether you like it or not. That's one of the reasons.
I'm still not sold on Palantir, man. I still think it's the devil in disguise, but the devil is coming in one way or the other.
Palantir is a weapon system.
Yes.
And it's who's control of that weapon system.
Yeah.
It's just like a gun. If I put a gun on a coffee table, it's just a gun. Palantir is just software.
The only thing I'll say about Palantir is one way or another, we are going to have a surveillance organization like that, whether it's inevitable, guys. I know we already do, but I'm saying like
no, but this is what I'm trying to say. It already exists.
I know.
When you go on your phone, whether you're on Facebook or Twitter, and the ads populate. Why do ads populate for stuff that you were talking to your wife or your brother or your parents or your kids about? Because this surveillance state already exists. It's audio, it's visual, it's search history. That we're not stepping into a new surveillance state. It's just becoming, more overt than covert. That's all it is. And as long as it doesn't violate our constitutional rights, then I'm good. Law enforcement and the government cannot use surveillance against an American citizen unless they have a lawful reason to violate that citizen's Fourth Amendment right.
Yet they do. All right.
Yeah. And that's what needs to get fixed. And that's why I'm saying it's Palantir, all these systems, they're weapon systems, and it's who's holding them that makes them dangerous or makes them something that's going to protect us.
We got one more story I want to get to, speaking of the State of the Union. But before we do that, I do want to talk about our final sponsor of the program, guys. And speaking of surveillance state, they can freeze your accounts. They can shut off your cards. They can lock you out of your own money overnight. Banks don't protect you. They control you. And that's why real financial freedom starts with ownership. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a non-custodial wallet built for people who refuse to give up control. With Rumble Wallet, you don't just buy digital currency like Bitcoin and Tether. You can own Tether Gold, real gold on the blockchain. Through Tether Gold, you got direct ownership of physical gold bars, each one fully allocated, verifiable by serial number, purity, and weight. This isn't paper gold. This isn't an IOU. This is real gold without bank vaults, storage fees, or gatekeepers. You can buy, sell, and move it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and even when traditional gold markets are closed. And if you want, Tether Gold can be redeemed for physical gold. Now that's power. And when you support creators on Rumble, you can tip them directly using Rumble Wallet, peer-to-peer and outside of the banking system. No permissions, no middlemen, no cancel button. The wallet is yours forever. And thank you to Rumble Wallet for sponsoring the program. You know, speaking of the State of the Union, I don't know if you saw this. At least 12 Democrat lawmakers plan to boycott Trump's State of the Union address. But it's a little more than just boycott it. They plan on having an alternative program. Weren't they just yelling at us about the TPUSA halftime show alternative, and now they're turning around and doing this shit? The progressive groups Move On and Midas Touch announced that they're hosting the quote-unquote People's State of the Union at 8:30 near the Capitol, billed as a counter-programming to, quote, President Trump's night full of lies and misplaced priorities for the American people. Democrat lawmakers will be joined on stage by the everyday Americans most impacted by Trump's dangerous agenda. Make sure you get some of the 450,000 new employees or newly employed that Apple is bringing back to the country. Make sure you get some of those on stage there. You got Senators Ed Markey, Jeff Merkley, Chris Murphy, Tina Smith, and Chris Van Hollen, as well as Representatives Yasmin Ansari, Becca Balliant, Craig Kasser, or is it Cesar? I don't know, Kasser, Veronica Escobar, Pramila Jayapal, Delia Ramirez, Bonnie Watson Coleman. Van Hollen wrote that, quote, Trump is marching America towards fascism, and I refuse to normalize his shredding of our Constitution and our democracy. Imagine saying Constitution in a conjunction with democracy, not understanding that they're two completely and totally separate documents. One is an actual guideline that must be followed, and the other is the implication that it's the rule of the majority. I mean, those two terms, like, does he not realize you can't say those two terms back to back like that? Constitution and democracy are counterintuitive to one another. Go ahead.
It's just, I'm there with you. I'm there with you. And I think a lot of people do it, some knowingly and some unknowingly, but I get it.
I know we talked about this yesterday. I said, we're not doing the whole democracy, constitutional republic thing, but when you use them back to back like that, I got to point out.
I hear you. You know, just like, you know, you hear it all the time too, you know, with republic, little r, you know what I mean?
Libertarian, little l.
Yeah. You know, it's a lot. And even listen, I still don't have all that stuff down pat. So I'm not going to pretend I do, you know, but I get it. It's the one I do get is when we're talking democracy and republic, like I'm there.
All right. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rumble rants. Before we do that, I do want to wish, and I know she's not listening, but maybe Christy is and she'll hear this, but I want to wish my niece, Austin, a happy birthday today. I think she's 21 today? No, she's 20 today. She's 20 today. So I want to wish her a happy birthday. And let's get into some Rumble rants here. Vera Barra 1 buying you a coffee for going it alone again. Yeah.
I set you up, Vera. I set you up to buy him a coffee.
Yeah. It's okay. I'll make sure that Alpha doesn't get any of these rants until 10:34. Tattoo teacher, Vera Barra. Me too. Thanks, CannCon, for always bringing a great show. Yep. Even when I'm solo. And then PJ, I think finally, oh no, PJ Corrigan. Thank you, Brian, for your dedication to putting this show on for us every morning. Your dedication is starting on time and having your show prepped and ready to go is very clearly evident every day. ML.
I was already in the studio at that time, just so you know.
All right. So that's $30 worth of rants for me. And then what do we do?
They had to come in pre-1022.
At 10, it's like 10:28. I'll get the official time. I have it marked. Emerald Dragon, what is Dog Hasn't Barked? I missed the explanation sometime in the last few weeks. Hey guys, nice of you to join us. Alpha, read your XDM sometimes. Sometime. Hey, I do read my XDMs, but like once a week. I don't do DMs and emails like once a week, and then I respond in mass. I take like 2 hours and go through all my correspondence. The Dog That Hasn't Barked is an email that when the Epstein files first started dropping, they put this one out that was between Epstein and Ghislaine in like 2010. And Epstein said, I think the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Trump was alone with redacted at my house for several hours. And they used that to basically paint Trump as alone at the house with one of Epstein's girls for several hours, implying that he did something. And in reality, the redacted name was Virginia Giuffre, who was on record under oath that Trump was nothing but a gentleman, never tried anything unbecoming to her. Also, the Dog That Hasn't Barked is a Sherlock Holmes reference, that the person that committed the crime was familiar to the person, to the owner of the dog didn't bark when the criminal came in because the dog recognized the person and didn't, wasn't alerted to him. And so the implication here is that this was long after Epstein had been arrested in 2008. And it seems like there was a powwow between Maxwell and Epstein to figure out who the informant against them was in 2008. And they're specifically talking about something that happened 9 years ago. I did like an hour-long show, Emerald. If you want to check it out on my channel, rumble.com/CannCon, I did it's probably on the first or second page of my my shows. But I did a show about for an hour long about about Trump being an informant, not just in the Epstein case, but historically, Trump has been an FBI informant for a long time. So you want to add anything to that?
No.
Okay. Makes sense to me. The guy that bought the Zorro Ranch wants to make it a Christian retreat and is cooperating with authorities that want to come look for buried bodies. Yes. And also signs of genetic alterations and that kind of thing. Because he was supposedly doing a lot of genetic manipulation and CRISPR type shit there too. Lee Walden, hey Marines. Well, it's becoming a thing with Lee Walden, so we got to read Lee Walden exactly as he writes it. Hey Marines, hope you're well. 1975 gas was at 0.30 cents. A gallon went over $1 during Carter Reagan. 1984, 10% mortgage on a $65,000 3-bedroom house, Charlotte, North Carolina. Times have certainly changed. Yeah, that is a spot on. And Lee Walden, we poke fun at you because that's the resident Coastie in the group, and he also does talk to text. I think that's what he does. He does talk to text, and my dad does the same thing to me, and I make fun of him incessantly for it. So, anyways, thank you so much, Lee Walden. Appreciate it. And then he says, my first car in 1973 was a '66 Mustang. I bought for $200. God only knows what it would be worth today. Depends. Was it a 289? Was it a 2+2? You got a lot of details missing there. I'm a big Mustang guy, so let me know. Sleep State, New York City's preliminary budget, 40% of Department of Education. Oh, not energy. Okay, DOE. Okay, that makes sense. 40% to Department of Education. That's interesting. Free, what was it? Free daycare for everybody. He just was bragging about 2 weeks ago. Department of Education. Lee Walden, a memorial scene in the movie A Bridge Too Far. U.S. Air Corps released an armada of thousands of aircraft bigger than D-Day. The German general was reported saying that the power of America will prevail. A movie, A Bridge Too Far. I've never seen that, and I think now I need to go watch A Bridge Too Far.
It sounds familiar, but it just sounds familiar. I don't recall ever seeing a movie like that either.
I got to watch that. Emerald Dragon, Alpha read XDMs, not me. So he's yelling at you. I know he sent me one because I saw it and I just haven't read it yet.
Is he telling me to read 10 DMs or X DMs?
He's telling you to read your.
I'm gonna need clarification in another Rumble rant.
Lee Walden, again, as our journey of discovery continues, never give up on the promise of America is still within reach. And with patriots like you and all of Badlands, I really have great hope. Nothing can stop what is coming. Cheers, Lee Walden. We deeply appreciate that.
And Lee Walden, is your X handle the same? Because I'll have people on Rumble go like, go read it. I'll dude, there's a lot that come through that I don't have a chance to get to. And I'm just like, I don't see this name anywhere. So then I'll search it and I still don't see the name. So if it's a different name than your Rumble handles, you guys got to let me know this stuff.
SJack64 says Alpha just because. Smiley emoji.
That's right.
Don't do that shit.
That's right.
Don't do that shit. This guy cannot be on time.
That's right.
I had Ash on the back burner ready to go. I was like texting Ash, and she's like,
out there saving people, folks. Saving people.
I'm gonna have contingencies now. I'm gonna have a Thursday contingency for Alpha.
Too far got all the goods.
I'm gonna have somebody on like Maverick on the ship on the carrier deck, like ready to launch Maverick. Because Iceman gets in trouble, that's what's going to happen. Except I don't get in trouble. I'll be like, when they launch Maverick, I'll be like, what the fuck are you launching Maverick for? I don't need him.
A Bridge Too Far. Good movie based on actual events.
Lee Walden, A Bridge Too Far, got all the goods. And then Boba Fu, A Bridge Too Far, good movie based on actual events. There we go.
I said both of those things.
I didn't hear you say Lee Walden's. So that's why I was lost there. All right, guys, if you have not done so yet, smash that thumbs up. We deeply appreciate it. God bless you all, and thank you all so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.